gameranx presents another episode of Before You Buy, the show where we give you some straight-up gameplay and some of our thoughts on the latest games releasing. It's me, as usual, Jake Baldino, and today we're talking about Rime. It's a game that feels extremely familiar. It's one part Journey, but with less of the charm, and then one part The Witness, but with less of the challenge. But still, despite that, this game is a solid playthrough with some pretty beautiful moments. Rime is ultimately a pretty relaxing game. Save for a few sequences, nothing in the game is really urgent. It's all a very slow, relaxing playthrough for the most part. You know, there's some platforming, but it's pretty hard to fail. You don't have health, and you instantly respawn. The name of the game here is really exploring and wandering around and solving environmental puzzles to progress through to different lands. You play as a wonderfully animated little no-name Disney-looking character boy who wakes up on this island confused, and that's about all you really get story-wise for quite some time throughout the game. It is nicely designed though. While it's mostly designed in a linear fashion for a lot of sequences, the game does still manage to feel like it's open world free roam a bit. The world is gorgeous though. It looks sharp, it's colorful, it's lush, and it's alive, especially with a bunch of particle effects, rushing waters, leaves, little critters running around, stuff like that. I just wish the game gave a bit more incentive to wander off the beaten path and truly explore every little crevice. You know, there's collectibles and little things here and there, but they don't really do much and they don't really give you any real oomph for trying to get that stuff. But I do gotta reiterate that just looking around and smelling the flowers is great because some of the color contrast here is great. The blues are so blue, the yellows, the greens. It's really a visually eye-popping game, way more than I even expected. YouTube videos may not do it justice, but on a good TV or a monitor, it looks pretty damn awesome. But that tight design that really helps you stay the course is due to some impressive work in how the game really leads you from place to place and from puzzle to puzzle. With some areas feeling pretty big, I still managed to never really feel lost. I was usually gently guided around and always knew what to do next without feeling like my hand was being held and I was being pushed along. It makes Rime feel really well paced. This is a brisk adventure, and while I do keep saying this stuff is really familiar, you won't totally get tired of it because you never stick around the place for too long. Changing environments and a day and night cycle usually really keeps things interesting and kind of shakes it up. The biggest issue for me though was that the puzzles weren't very challenging. You know, most felt very much like simple derivatives of puzzles we've already done in plenty of other games before, from general puzzle games to Zelda to even God of War. Only a handful of times though was I really stumped for more than like 3 minutes, and I'm a dumb idiot. For some, that really lessens the value of the game, but for others it makes for a relaxing, low-stress playthrough. That's up for you to decide though, and really what you want in a game like this. I was left wanting a little bit more, you know, considering puzzles are the main element of the game. Like I said, it's just simple. You run, you jump, you climb, you pick up objects, feed animals, and use your voice to shout and activate magical things to open gates and unlock doors and just generally progress. It all feels fairly smooth, if a bit simplistic. It gets slightly more complex later on when you're using light and climbing larger structures, but most of it just feels like stuff you've seen before. Not the worst thing in the world, just worth pointing out. But you should see this game through to the end. It's gonna be roughly 7 hours or so, but that depends on how much you get stuck on puzzles and stuff. I think some people will receive it very differently than others. Some folks I talked to who finished it were totally let down. Me, I thought the payoff wasn't quite there, but it was still interesting. I just think it all popped up a bit too far into the adventure. You know, the whole game keeps it so simplistic and less is more for the entirety, and then at the end it tries to go for something, and since there was no real build-up, it just doesn't nail quite as hard as it possibly could. But I will say though that the music really helps sell some of the emotional bits. You might actually feel some feelings. And that's big. The main draw for me was the music. There's some sweeping orchestral stuff that sounds sweet, sometimes sad, and often, to use the overplayed word, it's actually kind of epic. It really heightens the experience, but I'm just a huge fan of game music, and I'm a sucker for a good score. Like, if you liked Austin Wintory's work in Journey or Abzu, you'll definitely find a lot to like here. I'll say Rime isn't perfect, but it will probably make you feel nice. It's a brisk, light experience with moments that will make you smile, chuckle, and maybe even be a bit sad. And from the sound and visual perspective, it's definitely pleasing. Rime is like if Journey, The Witness, and Wind Waker had a baby. It's just not quite as impressive, but I wouldn't totally write it off. But that's how Before You Buy works. You guys know the deal. I give you some pros, some cons, and some personal opinion, and now I definitely want to hear yours down in the comments. Have you played Rime? If you're one of those aggressive people that can blast through a game, if you finished it already, I definitely want to hear what you think. How do you feel about the story? Did you get stuck on any puzzles? Let's talk about this. And maybe if you haven't played the game from the outside looking in, what are you feeling? Do you like the graphics? Do you think the game looks boring, or are you curious? Let's talk about anything Rime down in the comments below. I'll be there as usual, talking to you guys, answering any questions. If you have anything else for me, I'm on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Jake Baldino as well. But you know the deal, clicking the like button helps us out a ton and lets us do more Before You Buy, so thank you very much. But if you're new, subscribing is a good idea because we put out stuff like this all the time. But thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.